Good. Looks like I made it just in time. Justin Timberlake. Howdy, my name is Stee and welcome to my movie menu. I haven't recorded a video in the last couple of days because there's been an awful lot of stuff happening around the house and such like that. But last night, I finally, just said, fuck it. I'm gonna make a video tomorrow. So I woke up this morning and I was really happy about it. I had a script and everything written up, and what do you know? This thing appears on my face. The first spot I've gotten in about 4 months or so, and it just happened to be today. So just try not pay attention to it. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the 2011 action sci-fi thing that was In Time. This movie stars Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried and Cillian Murphy and all these other fantastic people. And Olivia Wilde, who is in the trailer for it and in the movie for about 10 minutes. So, is that false advertising? Okay, I've been asked to do this one a lot and it's been pretty persistent. The idea of the movie is really good. It's got an awful lot of political and social commentary about how the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep dying. And Olivia Wilde is in it, so I had to see it. So basically, people have been genetically engineered to age up to the age of 25, and then once you get to 25, they have 1 year left of life. They have a little clock thing on their arm, which is... it makes no sense. But it's good for keeping track of this thing, obviously, because if you had a countdown timer to when you're going to die, you'd constantly check it. And you'd love for it to be glowing. What you do is, at the age of 25, you kind of, every job you take, they pay you in time, as opposed to money. There's no such thing as cash in this film. It's all time. And the one question I have about all this, about the person who came up with this idea was, what do people do before the age of 25? Before the clock starts going, what the fuck do they do? Like, they constantly have a year left on their arm. Unless they do something reckless and physically get murdered, then they don't die or anything. So do they have a job to work up, like, time in back pay? So they can get a job when they're 12 years old and have, like, 1,000,000 years, which will come in later on, in the bank or something? But evidently not. It just doesn't seem to work that way. That bit was never fully explained to me. So there's the first problem with the film. The second problem that I have with the film is the film starts off with a nice little narrative by Justin Timberlake. I'm going to refer to him by his full name because he's Justin Timberlake. So he starts off with a little narrative which, usually tells us like the backstory. And it's easier to explain it as in someone saying 15 sentences as opposed to spending the first hour and a half of the film explaining why all this shit is happening. So like say, a good example of this is actually Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, because it's just fresh in my mind at the moment. The first like 5 minutes or so as the credits roll on, they kind of play a little bit of a comic backstory as to how he got these powers and all that stuff. So everything's explained so you can just get straight into the movie. As opposed to spending, say, in Ghost Rider 1, spending the entire film, well, the first half hour or so of the film, explaining how we got these powers and so on. So it's really good for, saving time and just explaining something straight away as opposed to trying to play it out in visuals. The only problem with this in the movie In Time is the fact that Justin Timberlake specifically says, the words, they come out of his face hole. He actually says, "I don't know why or how this happened." That doesn't fucking explain anything at all. How did they get a clock in your arm? The premise and the idea and all the details are really impressive, but it's just horrible. Just bear with me, please. The entire review isn't just me saying it's shit. Most of it is, but I'm gonna explain why. That's the main thing right here. Okay, so some of the intricacies that I found out through research and watching behind the scenes stuff and all that is that you don't notice it when you watch the film, but your brain does. All the poor people who like are living on maybe 2 or 3 hours and they have to they work to get more time. They have zippers on all their clothes, or everything just kind of goes over the head and it's on. There's actually like the first conversation between Justin Timberlake and his mother, which I'll get to in a second. They're talking And then she turns around, walks out of the room. He's still finishing his sentence, and she comes back out completely changed. Because she's obviously just gone, and now she's ready to go to work. And the rich people then have buttons. So they have enough time to kind of go, la, 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 la. Always Coca-Cola? How the fuck did that get in my head? Now, everyone in this movie stops aging at 25, okay? And when I first heard the premise, I was like, okay, so there's gonna be a bunch of me's walking around the place. But no, as beautiful as I am, 25-year-old people in this world seem to be awesome. If the world was filled with the, like, 25-year-old people that looked like the 25-year-old people in this film, I'd be okay with that. It's also a really good way to, okay, this is the part that, like, the reason why I love the premise but also hate the premise. It's very much like Logan's Run, where they have the little crystals in the hand, and once you go over a certain age, you're going to die. As in, people come for you and kill you. But this way, you have the option of, you know, working your way along and yada yada yada. But okay, everybody stops aging at 25. I'm getting off topic here. Everybody stops aging at 25. And then afterwards they live a year. They have a year on their clock or whatever. And they use that to, like, buy things and pay bills and shit. So therefore, Olivia Wilde is Justin Timberlake's mother. Okay, so several dozen things happen in between. Like, all my notes that I've written down for this film happen in the first 45 minutes. The rest of it is just your standard action film. You gotta run away from the bad guys or whatever. And you've got a goal to accomplish, so you go and do that. That's the specifics. But the things that I have written down, they really seem mean when I read back over them. But they're all exceptionally legitimate. Now, what I do here is I take specific parts of a film and talk about them. Talk about the general overview later or whatever, but mostly I pick out specific parts that happen in the film that catch my attention. That's how I'll put it, they catch my attention. So, Dr. Leonard Hofstadter from The Big Bang Theory is in this. That's all I'm saying. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. He'll come back into play later on. So, it turns out that Olivia Wilde is 50 years old. I have to go to this place. I'm gonna ruin a couple things here, so if you don't want to know the plot to In Time. So he goes off to work one morning. On her 50th birthday, by the way. She's 50 years old. Olivia Wilde is 50 years old. 50. Olivia Wilde, 50 years old. So he's off working away, and he's looking at his watch. I'm gonna call it a watch. He's looking at his watch, and he's only got maybe an hour or so left. So he's working away, and she goes off into some other town to, like, pay rent and all that kind of jazz. So he's working away, and then he finishes his shift and he goes to the accounts department or whatever the fuck it is to get his payment, and he puts his hand under the thing and then he looks at his watch and he's like, where's the rest of it? And man's like, hey, that's all you're getting. And he's like, hey, fuck you, buddy. Okay, I'm just gonna get to the point. I've rambled for about 5 minutes. I actually have to cut all that out because it just kept rambling and rambling. It's kind of what I do. That's why it's a lot of fun knowing me. No, it's not. I love a good talk. Anyway, right, so she's running out of time, and so she decides then to run home because it's a 2-hour walk to her house, and the bus costs 2 hours to ride, but she's only got an hour and a half. So she decides to run. And Justin Timberlake is standing at the bus stop, waiting for his mother to get home. Then he finally realizes that she's not coming on the bus. Maybe she doesn't have enough time. There you go. So he starts running towards her. So she looks at the watch and there's 15, or there's like half an hour left or something, and then he starts running. So within that half hour, they were both able to finally meet in the middle just as her time runs out. Now as they're running towards each other, it kind of goes, not so much slow-mo, but you know that moment when you're like, when you know something bad is about to happen, the music starts to swell and you get really emotional and choked up. You're like, oh my god, she's gonna die! And then she finally dies and falls into his arms. And you're like, oh my god, this is horrible. Oh, what a terrible, terrible thing. But then it's all ruined by Justin Timberlake crying. Now, bear with me. I was watching it. I got choked up. I'll admit it. All right. I'm an emotional kind of guy. What can I say? When he starts crying, you just don't like him. I mean, I like Justin Timberlake. I presume he's a really nice guy. He seems like a really nice guy. But I think it's the noise. You know, okay. Bear with me for a moment here. It's his cry noise. You know the noise people make when they cry. So like some people do the whimper, they go. Other people do the squeak where they go. And you know the noises. Or my favorite one is the sharp inhale of breath, but no actual noise. So it's like, you know the one, you know the one, but his one is the one that I hate. It's the one noise that I just cannot abide by, because it's a horrible sound. It really breaks somebody down to their most basic emotional parts. And it's what I call the outwards gasp. It's the one where you breathe in and you start to cry. And you just, instead of making a sweet, whimpering kind of sound, you go... You know the ones. It just made me not like him. That's all I can say. From that moment on, it kind of went downhill a little bit. So apparently, after he had finished his crying and such, he met his friend in a bar, Dr. Leonard Hofstadter, and they were talking away, and then some guy is sitting there in a nice suit with buttons. He's in there in a nice suit with buttons, and he's just throwing around the drinks. He's like, hey, everybody have a drink on me, I'll pay for it. And he sticks his hand in the thing, and you see that he's got 110 years, whereas everybody else around him is living on maybe 10, 15 hours. Then some people called the Minutemen walk into the bar, which is basically like the gangsters of the ghetto area. Again, it's just tying major ties towards cash flow and stuff like that. But anyway, they walk in and they go, hey, what the fuck? How come you have 100 years? I'm gonna take them. They're gonna fight for it. And instead of a physical punch, 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 punch fight, in this world of in time, they have this thing where you both hold like wrists or whatever, which is how you kind of like through the wrist is where you pay bills and they take time away. So you like hold hands basically, and then you just kind of go for 15 minutes and try and win. That's the best way to describe it, actually. Anyway, they challenge him to that, and then Justin Timberlake is hiding in the jacks for some reason, and so the guy goes, okay, give me a second. And he walks out, the jacks throws up, and Justin Timberlake just kind of goes, hey, let's get the fuck out of here. So they both run, and then they're running and running and running and running, and then they're yakking away, and turns out Justin Timberlake's character is a really nice guy. And if he was given 100 years, he would just hand it out to everybody. So the guy who he's talking to has been living for about 100 years or so, and he's just getting sick and tired of it. So as Justin Timberlake falls asleep, the guy goes over and gives him all his time. Leaves himself in about 5 minutes or so we can go off and die happily, yada yada yada. Then Justin Timberlake wakes up and he goes, okay, that's an awful lot of time. Through talking to this guy, he finds out that the famous quote from the trailer, which just caught everybody's attention, which is why the film didn't do that well, but a lot of people were talking about it, probably solely because of this line, which is, for a few to be immortal, many must die. Which basically means that he's implying that for people to have 100 years, loads of poor people have to die. Maybe that's not good at all. Maybe they should do something about that. Yeah. For some reason, this dude who's been living and working in a slum, as he says, working in a factory every single day of the last 3 years, I think he's been working for, because he's been 25 3 times, that's how they kind of judge it. He decides then to go and take them down. So before he goes off and does all this, he goes to Dr. Leonard Hofstadter and says, how long have we been friends? And he says, oh, about 10 years or so. So he clasps his hand and he says, here you go, and gives him 10 years on his clock. Now the only problem with that is DLH, as I'll now refer to him as, has a major problem with alcohol. So even though he's got a young baby and he's got a wife and they've got bills to pay and such, he goes to the bar and eventually drinks himself silly and dies. That'll come up later in the film, but I'll just pass on it. So this is why I'm telling you now. Anyway, he finally gets a nice suit on him and he calls a limo. He calls a limo to pick him up in the ghetto that he's in, and he then has to cross several time zones to get to the big city, like where all the rich people live. Where you can only live there if you are rich. So each time he goes through a time zone, he has to pay a toll, and each time the toll gets progressively higher from 1 month to finally when he gets to, I think it's District 4, it costs a year. And he says, wow, I don't remember it costing that much the last time I came through. And the driver kind of turns around and goes, what are you really doing here? So instead of just kind of telling him, it's just been a while since I've been here and I just forgot, or something to that effect, he just tells him. He tells him his plan. He says to the driver, who could be anybody, I'm going to take them for everything they've got. He's telling this guy. Shut the fuck up. This guy works for them. He could... Justin Timberlake, I'm bringing stupid back. So he gets to the city, he's got 100 years to spend. It's like getting £1 million and just going, fuck it, I'll go to a casino and make more. So he goes to a casino and he meets some dude, Mr. Wyas, I think it is. W-E-I-S, Wiz? Mr. Wiz. And he joins in on a poker game and he wins 1,000 years in the poker game. So he basically got 10 times the amount that he originally had. So Mr. Wiz is so impressed that JT was able to take 1,000 years off him that he goes, hey, since you took 1,000 years off me, how about you come to my house and let me win it back? I'm good. I'll just go, thanks. This is a lot. I'm just gonna fuck off now. But no, he goes. And what do you know, there's a chick there. There's one thing that I don't really like about movies these days is that there just so happens to be a chick there. Like, she's not integral to the plot. She, like, not really. She's not really integral. She's just a chick because it makes no sense. Anyway, she's pissed off that she's been living in this hoity-toity. That's a word that I actually wrote down. Apparently it's spelled H-O-I-T-Y T-O-I-T-Y. Hoity-toity. Just gotta run that across the bottom of the screen there. Thank you. So she gets sick and tired of this hoity-toity place that she lives in, and she's upset because she hasn't really lived, because she's got, I think, a decade or so on her arm clock thing, and she hasn't really experienced any life because there's no real threat of death unless she does something physically dangerous, which they won't do because they want to live forever. So JT shows up and goes, hey, what's going on? Let's go skinny dip. So they're skinny dipping away for whatever reason, and one thing that I did like about it was the fact that their clock was like glowing under the water. That's probably about the only real thing in this film that I liked, apart from like the general premise. But yeah. Anyway, he somehow gets through to her by saying, hey, why don't you just come along with me and I'll put you in situations that may kill you and then we can have sex. That is the only reason I can see these two getting together. Like, there's no real bonding. There's no moment where they share a laugh or anything like that. It's just, hey, I enjoy not living in a house. I usually only have like 6 hours left to live. So, do you want to fuck? So then the time cops show up in the form of Cillian Murphy. Now these aren't like the Minutemen who were gangsters. These are time cops. Well, the time police. But I prefer the name time cops. They're like governmentally licensed or whatever. You don't ever see any kind of government in the background around them, but you can tell they're like secret agents or whatever. And they basically track time. That's pretty much it. So if someone steals time, or if they notice any weird patterns going on or whatever, they'll flip their shit. So he goes there and he meets him. He's like, hey, what's going on? I knew your dad. That's just thrown in there, by the way. That's just thrown in out of fucking nowhere. Cillian Murphy's been around for, I think, 75 years or so. And for some reason, he knew this guy's dad. It doesn't go any further into that, except, like, at the end of the film, Cillian Murphy, or fucking, no. Like, at the end of the film, JT goes to Cillian Murphy, hey, you must have been from here, because you can run. That's how they tell who is from the ghetto and who's rich, because they can run. If you can run, You're in the ghetto because you have no time. If you only walk places and shit, you must be rich. I only walk. I haven't run in like 7 years. And I'm broke as fuck. So JT escapes and he takes the chick hostage, and then that's pretty much where I stopped taking notes, because nothing interesting happened after this point. What basically happened was they went on the run, the cops came after them. There were, oh, actually, that's what it was. It was at, I think, 46.5 minutes or so on the timeline into the film. There's a horrible car accident where those two are driving a really fast car, which for some reason Justin Timberlake decided to buy because he wanted to have a sexy looking car in the movie. And he wanted to drive it. That's the only reason I can explain for this car being there, because it's in the movie for about 5 minutes and then it's gone. It has no relevance whatsoever, except for the horrible car accident. And when I say horrible car accident, I don't mean like everybody's injured and dying and there's explosions and shit. I mean, it was horribly stunted. It might just be the way the car is made, or the way the car, like, it okay, this is another point that kind of ties into something that happened that just clicked in my head. The car is only about, say, thigh height. So it's just above the knees, and it's really low and it's got no roof on it. Now, I was looking at it and thinking, why the fuck would he buy such a small, low-down car? And then I found out, just before the car accident happens, they're driving along and they hide under a bridge. And it just so happens that the bridge is about 5 feet high. And the only way you could get under that bridge in a car is to have a thigh-high car. It just got me. As soon as I saw it, because there was about that much clearance over the top of JT's head, and I'm like, wow, that's a small car, what a coincidence. They can just hide under this bridge. Fuck. The car stunt that happened was, it fell off a ditch or whatever, but whatever way it hit off the front left, like, light, and it flipped once, and that was it. But they were going at like 80 miles an hour. So they should have done an awful lot more damage, and it just looked... Okay, you know when you get a piece of plywood, and you kind of throw it from, say, like a higher place to a lower place, obviously, and it just kind of goes, and it falls. That's exactly what it looked like, except it did a turnover once. Once it hit the ground, it turned over once, and then went back around to a full 360 turn. But it just looked like someone throwing a piece of plywood and it falling and flipping. It was terrible. Ah. They go off together. He eventually turns her to his side because he has sex with her, which apparently is the way to get a woman to help you rob banks, which is the next point, because she is the daughter of the big Dr. Wiz, whatever the fuck I called him a minute ago. She knows where all the banks and stuff like that are, and where the safes are. The safes keep all the time and stuff like that. So what they do is, they just get a big, massive armored truck, which they never explain how they got it. Like, it's a big Dr. Wiz, like you know the Securicore trucks and the gas trucks and stuff like that, or the G4S trucks, one of those big blue ones. It was like that, as in it was specifically tailored for Dr. Wiz to move the time around. But she got the car, like she got it, but it never shows how she got it. How did they get it? How did they get it and then drive it through the front of the bank? I accept that they just needed a big car to get through it, but how did they specifically get a Dr. Wiz armored truck? Explain to me. So what they do is they break in and they steal a lot of it. They steal about like 50 of the little silver things, which are... I'll find something in a minute that's about the same. Oh, I'll find something in a minute. So they steal a bunch of them, and then they just turn around to everybody who's gathered around and just go, hey, maybe you guys should steal all this shit too. So everybody piles in and takes as much fucking time as they need, like months and years and shit, and just, they pour it into their arms. The more I talk about it, the more illogical this premise becomes. But still, the better that I think the premise is. It's a brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. Horribly executed, but brilliant idea. their faces get put out, and they're both wanted or whatever, and they go around, they rob a couple other things, and they're running away from everybody. And then, only now, Little Wiz, Little Wiz, the chick that came with JT, she tells him, informs JT, this is very complicated, that her father, Dr. Wiz, has 1,000,000 hours saved on one of those little silver things. I'll find something eventually that looks like it so I can show it to you. And it's got 1,000,000 years stored on it, and it's in a safe which is in his office or whatever the fuck it is. So what happens then is they go, okay then, let's go get it. So what she does is she goes back to her father with a gun in her hand and says, hi father, how are you? Now he's got about, I think it's like 100,000 years or something like that on his clock thing. So the more time you have, the more bodyguards you have, basically. So he's got about 10, 15 bodyguards around him. And she walks in and goes, oh, I see you've hired more security since last time. He's like, of course I did. You're gonna try and kill me. And he's like, yeah, well then fucking fuck, waka 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 waka. Then Justin Timberlake turns out to be one of them. So he pulls a gun on the guy and he just goes, hey, what's going on? Let's go and find that safe of yours. And he's like, okay then, let's go. So they went to the safe. That's the best one. There's no proper conflict going on in this film. Like, JT's a good actor-ish. Like, I saw that movie. I'll put it here with the... But for some reason, that one exchange was just kind of happened. I mean, you got 15 guys standing around you, professionally trained, to stop people from doing such a thing. And they don't try and stop you. That makes no sense. They go into the safe, and they see the thing, and it's got 1,000,000 years on it. You can see the 1,000,000 and the O's. And they go, okay, cheers. And they leave the dad in the safe, close the door, and then shoot out the number pad. But, like, why would you do it? Why would he come after you? You have a gun. Why would you shoot out the... I'm just going to speak to the rest of it. JT and Little Wiz take the 1,000,000 hours or whatever to like a mission thing that kind of gives out free time to people, and they just give it to him, and then he distributes it throughout all the other people who need time and don't have any time, and yada yada yada. Then you think the movie's ended, and that's it. You're like, oh, awesome. That's actually a pretty good ending. Not bad at all. Then Cillian Murphy chases after them. Now this is another part. This is another part. So what happens is they drive in. They hand the guy, or they hand the thing to a chick who goes then and gives it to the guy who's about 100 meters down the way at the mission. Then what happens? They start running a little bit, and they say, we gotta get to Livingston, which I don't think is a character. I think it might be a place. And they're both running out of time. They've both got about 1.5 minutes left or so, and they're running away, and then Cillian Murphy stops them. And for some reason, they're running away from the 1,000,000 hours they just had. They're not running towards the mission and get maybe an extra 20 minutes to just kind of give them a little bit of fleeing time. No, they're running to either some place or something called Livingston. It's never mentioned in the movie up to this point, but JT is adamant that they get themselves to Livingston. Anyway, they're running to Cillian Murphy. He back and forth. Cillian Murphy says, oh, I used to be from here, yada yada yada. Then his heart explodes. Because that's what happens when your time runs out. It's the most convenient way to kill off a secondary villain. Great plot fix there to just write somebody out of it. Oh, Dr. Leonard Hofstadter has to go shoot some more episodes of his show. That's grand. He drank himself to death and his time ran out. That'll do it. Oh, Olivia Wilde costs 16 million quid a day to have her here. How about her time runs out? Genius! So Cillian Murphy dies, and then for some reason they look at their watches, and they both have like 1.5 minutes left or something like that. So they're running along, still running, so much running in this. I got tired just watching it. And they look at each other and they go, we're not going to make it. And he says, oh wait, one of us can. So he goes to give her his time. And she goes, I'm not going to fucking make it. I'm rich, I've never run in my life. And he's like, oh. Hey, what about Cillian Murphy's car? And for some reason, it's it's said through the entire film, like they make a point of pointing this out to you, that he has one of the little scanner things in his car, and he just talks on the phone, and he just go, can I have my money? And he puts his hand on the thing, and then he gets his time. So they set that up from the start, which is good for a setup and a payoff, but they do it too many times to actually make it make sense and make it believable. So he runs to the car, he puts his hand under the thing, he gets some more time, runs back to her, and then they clasp hands, which is the same thing that happened between him and his mother, but his mother died before he got to her, but this chick didn't. And everyone was like, yeah. That's when you think the movie's really going to end. Because Cillian Murphy's dead, the dad is taken care of, they're happy together, whatever. Not a bother. But then it fades to black and then it comes back up. And the movie ends. The movie ends with the two of them getting out of a car and cocking guns and walking towards a bank. A massive bank. And then the chick says, I told you there was a bigger bank. And I'm like, but yeah, it's a massive bank. It's like a 200-story building turned on its side. So it's really long. It's about 5 stories high and really long. So, like, all the time is stored on little teeny tiny things. They're only about that big or so. Just about like that big. So like a big enough phone. Like a massive phone. And they're stored on that, and apparently they can hold up to at least 1 million years, which is what the dad had. So if this place is like 9 miles long and fucking 7 stories high and full of these little things, there could be billions of years in there. So you'd expect it to be heavily guarded. So what they do is they walk in with 2 9mm guns, and they they expect to rob this entire bank. Of all the... Well, that's the end of it. I'm done. I'm done. This film is... it's run into several issues. It's got a really good premise. Very Logan's Run-esque. But it's executed in such a way that it's just got too much of a political feel. It's... yeah, that's actually probably a much better way of saying it. It's got too much of a political feel to it. As in, the movie's all about segregation. The poor stay over there, the rich stay over there, that's it. This movie had several issues like that. I mean, maybe JT wasn't the perfect person, maybe they should have had Nicolas Cage. But this film was pretty good. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. As in, you'd sit down and you'd watch it, but you wouldn't feel happy with yourself afterwards. You wouldn't feel enlightened towards anything. You wouldn't really feel anything except that that idea is pretty good. For a movie, like that's all. Like, you can walk away from some films feeling emotional, feeling angered, feeling anything. But from this film, I walked away and I just said, "Oh, okay, that's great. Thanks for the last hour and 45 minutes." I wouldn't say rent it, but if someone you know has it, acquire it from them and watch it, or like, don't at all. Oh, there's one last thing that I want to say just before I go. There's a part in it, it's also in the trailer. Justin Timberlake is in the queue with Dr. Leonard Hofstadter and to buy some coffee. And he says, well, 4 minutes for coffee, it was 3 yesterday. The thing is, if it costs 4 minutes for coffee, right? So 4 minutes for a cup of coffee. The average price of a cup of coffee is, say, about a £5, right? £5. That means that these guys are being paid 4 minutes and 60 and 75 quid an hour. Fuck, that's 75 quid an hour. Oh, it cost me 4 minutes for a cup of coffee. Then don't drink the fucking coffee. You're getting paid 75 quid an hour. And so ends my in-time conversation. Thank you very much for joining me. My name has been Stee. Feel free to comment about how many times you saw me fix my hair. It was a lot. And I will see you guys next time. Bye now.